In Revit, there are several instance parameters for model views to help you customize the views in your project. For example, looking in the Properties palette, under Graphics, you can see several parameters. A few of the main ones you need to be aware of are the view scale, which controls the size of the view and the annotations when they're placed on a sheet, as well as in the actual view. The detail level is important because that controls the amount of detail that is shown in the view, and various elements will adjust how much detail they show depending on the detail level. Additionally, you can control the discipline of the view, which controls the discipline that takes priority in the view. Additionally, you can access the visibility graphic overrides and the graphic display options from the Properties palette. Continuing on, you can add an underlay. For example, I'll open the second floor view, and then in the Properties palette, when I click in the Range Base Level field, I can expand the drop-down and select a base level. For this example, I'll select ground floor, and then I can control the range top level. And when I expand that drop-down, I can select another level to be the top level. So I'll select second floor, and then I can choose the underlay orientation, which is either look down or look up. So I'll select look down, and we're essentially looking from the second floor down to the ground floor, and you can see the walls on the first floor as an underlay here in the second floor view. So what that does is allow you to reference the model elements on other levels as needed. I'll go back to the ground floor overall view, and under Extents, that's where you can control the crop region and the annotation crop. You can also access the view range. When you click Edit next to View Range, Revit opens the View Range dialog, and you can control the primary range, which includes the top and bottom, as well as the cut plane, as well as the view depth. When you click Show, Revit will expand the dialog to show a preview image of what each of those controls actually does in the view. And then Hide will collapse that. I'll click Cancel to close the View Range dialog, and then we'll go back to the Properties palette, and under Identity Data, that's where you can specify a view template, and when you click the button, you open the Assign View Template dialog, and you can assign a view template to the view, which creates a link between the view template and the view. You can also control the view name here, as well as specify a title on sheet. You can have a different title on sheet than the view name. So by default, Revit will use the view name, but if you want, you can add a title on sheet for the view title tag to display that when the view is on a sheet. Additionally, you need to be aware of the phase of the view, especially if you're using phasing, and when you create model elements in the view, the phase created parameter for those elements will match the phase of the view. And then you can control the phase filter, which will control which phase statuses will actually appear in the view. All right, next I'm going to open up the site plan view. And here you can see that the building is oriented slightly different. And if we go back to the Properties palette, one of the parameters that we skipped for the time being was orientation, but that can be set to True North or Project North. So right now it's set to True North in this site plan view, but if I change it to Project North, then it'll match the orientation that we saw in the ground floor overall view. If I change it back to True North, then it's oriented to true north. All right, let's take a look at some 3D views. If I expand the 3D views branch in the project browser, and then I'll open the From Street 3D view, and I'll change the visual style to shaded. Now, first off, I'm going to go to the site plan view, and then I'm going to right-click the From Street 3D view in the project browser, and I'm going to select Show Camera. And what this is going to do is it's going to actually show the camera as well as the view extents here in the site plan view, which is the active view. And so here we can actually see the sun path along with the view extents from our From Street 3D view, and we can get a good idea of what that view is showing. And if we want, we can actually click and drag the camera to adjust how that view is looking. And if we go back to the From Street view, we can see that it has been adjusted. And obviously our eye and target is slightly off, so we can go to the Properties palette and scroll down to the Camera section, and here we can adjust both the eye elevation and the target elevation. So if I change the target elevation to 100 feet, and we can see that it adjusts in the view. And depending on the viewer you are trying to create, you may need to make some slight adjustments to the eye elevation and the target elevation, and you may even need to go back to a specific floor plan view, right-click the 3D view and choose Show Camera, and make some adjustments to the camera position and maybe even the far clip as well. So as you can see, there are lots of options there to customize your views so that they appear exactly like you want them to.